Welcome back. You are listening to Eye on Education. I'm Jen Crichton, in for Helen, and it's 3:20.
This is Eye on Education on Dubai Eye 103.8.
Sponsored by Repton School Al Barsha. Exemplary British education for ages 3 to 18, where ambition is nurtured and potential is unlocked.
And I think it's safe to say it is the biggest story of the week. The school gates are open again, classrooms are filling up, and for the first time in, I think, 6 or 7 weeks, there's a sense of normality returning to daily life here in the UAE. But for many families, it isn't just a simple reset. There are nerves, there's mixed emotions, there's an adjustment, not just for children, but for parents and for teachers as well. So we're opening that conversation up today, how it's really going. I'd love to hear from you. What are your biggest worries or reliefs right now? What support do you need? Message us on 4001 or drop us a WhatsApp. We are going to be putting your questions to our guests throughout the hour. I am joined right now in studio by Michael Bloy. He is principal at Repton Dubai. And we were saying before the break, Michael, you know, there's the emotional impact, there's the joy of kids being back together in the classroom, there's that kind of coiled spring of activity that your PE teachers are dealing with. But for parents listening, I think what has been really interesting over the past few weeks is there was that sort of sense of uncertainty. Were the kids going to go back? Were they not? Would it be before summer? Would it be home learning for a long time? And when the word came that we could go back, it felt very quick. And I wonder, for teachers, what has that process been like? What, you know, how confident are you all feeling to be back in school and to know that that decision has been taken, that we are safe, that we can go back to classrooms, that normal life, such as it is, can resume? Yeah,
I think we're fairly confident this is us now to the summer. I would say we're certain where we are. As teachers, I think we were planning for it. Whilst we knew we were online, we were always thinking about what's the next step, where would we be and how would we return. The longer we got into it, you then start to think about what will we adapt. Like I talked about, us removing a bit of technology, putting more face-to-face learning and all that aspect into it. However, you know, the geopolitics of this are all out of our control, but we do feel very secure. I think the UAE has shown a good job of how it will protect us, look after us. The school's been safe and sound, and I feel overall we're in a good position now to return. I understand not everybody has this same sentiment, but the majority, and that's fine. We're all different, and I think that's how we're treating return. Staff, students and parents, we are all different, and we'll all have different speeds that we do this at, but that's how we're trying to deal with this transition back into school. Not quite like COVID, where we came back and it was just, let's get back. Yeah. This has got a certain amount of uncertainty that you're talking about. Therefore, dealing with that is then how to get the school psychologically safe, how to make, one of the first things we've talked about is if staff with the voice of calm and word of reassurance, we deal with our staff. It's like putting the oxygen mask on first. So we've been dealing with that, using the school's counsellor, the psychologist, looking at the staff that, we're not pointing people out, but we're saying who would like some help, how can we help, where might you best serve us at this point in time, so that when children come in, the routine's clear, we're calm, we're confident. And I think that then just low, because you can have as much safety zones and you can have as much concrete over your heads as possible, but safety is about a sentiment, isn't it? It's about a feeling. And if you don't feel confident and safe in a school, you're not going to go in.
And I think you're really right. Like, kids take their cues from the adults around them, and that's their teachers, but it is also their parents. And I think perhaps where some parents are perhaps feeling ill-equipped at the moment is that we're saying to our kids, you wouldn't be going in if it wasn't safe. You're safe. You're going in. You're learning. And the teachers have all been sort of given this training, and the kids have all gone through the emergency procedures, and the parents are sort of going, what do those look like? Because for a lot of us, maybe we don't want to ask our kids to go into too much detail. Maybe the kids are too little. As parents, talk us through it. What are you actually putting in place in schools now that wasn't there before to ensure that you are prepared for every eventuality, although hopefully it will be unnecessary?
Yeah. I don't think there's... We was discussing this with we did some training with our parents on Monday to walk them through exactly what it would look like, their role in this and what would happen. Obviously within the schools we've now got safe zones, which we're compliant with, and we're doing all of that. So if you were to walk into our school, you'd see sections of the corridors marked off because we've got nice big wide corridors. That would be our safe zone, and we've practiced that with the children. we're doing it calmly. We're saying, look, this is where we'll go to should we need to. We had a practice today with secondary. Other than that, you're not going to see anything massively different. For us, what we've tried to do, as I say, is get quickly back into the routine of things, because again, the safety element is about people feeling that actually, yeah, this is okay. And actually I can handle this and I can do this. So coming through the schools, you aren't actually going to see a massive amount of difference. It depends from school to school, because I'm sure different schools got very different areas, etc. But the only thing that you would notice is the signs to the safe zones, them being partitioned off, being very clear about where they'd head to, probably some marks around emergency exits, etc. But what we've tried to do with the parents is to reassure them that this is in extremis. It's highly unlikely to happen. We feel confident that if it did, we'd be fine. And then we were also looking at then the parents' role in this, because if there is, heaven forbid, another alert and it goes off, those horrible phone sounds that we've all got PTSD about, don't come to school. Because you are actually putting yourself at risk. They go off in different parts of the city. So we've been walking them through very carefully about what the school will do should you live at this end of town and we're at Repton and Nadal Sheba. An alert might happen there, but not down here. So about how we would communicate that and being in that constant dialogue. So that's one of the things we're trying to do to get that security. So some of the things you might see are actually just more increased conversations about what's happening rather than the physicality of the building.
And how do you think that's being received by parents? Are the majority of your families back? Or, I mean, we know that there are probably some people who are travelling over the next few days who are maybe coming back a few days late. But are you finding that the majority of families are wanting to be back in the classroom or ready to be back in school?
Yeah, I mean, within our group, I think the average is just over 90% of families are back. So it shows you that there's an appetite to be back. I know from our own school, I think we've got another 15%. We're roughly about 85, but another 10 to 15. Nearly everybody will be back next week. They've indicated that's the point of travel, and that I think is a pattern across the city. I mean, the roads are busier, so I mean, we know people are back. So I think families are getting in a position now to return to school. I think this week is the tester. They want to see how we're handling things, how children feel about school. Are we prepared? Are staff ready for things? And I think once families see that we are, I think more people will come back.
And I mean, we've talked a bit about, as you say, fewer screens, less academic pressure, getting kids back into that experience of being in the classroom, being with their friends. But the reality, of course, is there are kids who are in exam years. There are kids who have academic requirements. We've seen some exams cancelled. There's a bit more coursework. There's also ongoing assessment. Where do we stand with those and those older kids? How do we help them have a smooth transition back into school while also making sure that they're not falling behind where they should be at this time of year?
And that's the tricky balance as well, because I think the danger, particularly in those transition years or the key exam years, is to say, right, what gaps have we got to fill? Let's do it very quickly. And I think you'll forget the relationship aspect that I talked about before. We're straight into telling the kids, right, deadlines, get things done. So what we're trying to do is just partition that down very carefully into small bite-sized chunks so we're not overwhelming children. And I think that's one of the balances that parents could play a big role in as well, is to be talking about, okay, what's the thing for today, rather than, right, how are you going to get an A or get a 9 in the subject that you're aiming for. It's about what do you just have to do at this point in time. Otherwise, the big picture can be quite overwhelming for a child. So we've got a role in just calming it down, and the schools will, I know everybody's going to be doing a gap analysis, finding out where we are, but it's then just calming down that bit rather than rushing in and say, right, we've all got to do this test is this week, this just, otherwise children will just be switched off from school, they'll feel overwhelmed, and we're back to square one in terms of that psychological safety at school.
Absolutely. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. But it's really comforting as a parent, I think, to speak to you and to hear how that is all working. And I wonder, just lastly, I've got 1 minute left for you. For those parents who are listening who are maybe still feeling slightly on edge, slightly uneasy, what would your message to them be about the return to school and what their kids are being supported through?
Yeah, I mean, look, first and foremost, I think we have to say we get it, and we understand it. Secondly, I would start with, look, we feel that we are in a great position. We're safe, we're secure. The schools are happy. I'm sure we're not the only one that's been, celebrating being back at school. But thirdly, I think we've discussed it a little bit, is the importance of school and the relationship. You can do well online, you can learn the academics, but the softer skills that you've talked about, that the things that children need largely are each other. They can do without us as adults quite happily half of the time, and actually what they need is that interaction, that engagement. Now, whilst I wouldn't want to force anyone back, and we will definitely support people online, we'll do the online learning, the best place is at school. So that would be the message overall.
Amazing. And it is so lovely to see the kids back. I mean,
Yes.
especially, there was a bit of me, I'm not going to lie, at 9 p.m. last night thinking, World Book Day on day 2. Really? Is this what we're doing? We're doing costumes. But actually, there was something this morning about seeing, Yoda and Matilda and Katniss Everdeen all wandering into the classroom. You just went, yeah, this is good.
I think we were all ready for that, actually. Just a bit of light relief. Yeah.
A bit of nonsense, a bit of mischief. It's what they all need, I think.
Exactly.
Michael Bloy, Principal at Repton Dubai there. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Bloy. And I hope the rest of the first week goes as smoothly as it seems to have done so far.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Abu Dhabi's Environment Agency has prevented the consumption of over 400.
Hey, it's Jen in for Helen on Afternoons. It is, of course, Eye on Education. But before we get to the reality of returning to the classrooms, just a reminder of today's competition, because at the heart of the UAE's community are people who have been showing up every day over the last 7 weeks. And More Cravings by Marriott Bonvoy, the dining app for memorable experiences, is wanting to celebrate those everyday heroes by awarding them with some special dining moments. Now, every day this week, we're asking you to nominate your personal everyday hero who's made a difference to your life. Could be a neighbour, could be a teacher, could be a friend, could be a fellow parent. Who's gotten you through the last few weeks? If you let me know, you could be taking them out for a pool day with lunch at La Ville Hotel and Suites City Walk. We are looking at a city escape for 2 at Look Up. It's the rooftop pool and lounge that has some fairly exceptional Burj Khalifa skyline views. You're going to get complimentary pool access and a Mediterranean lunch as well. So if you would like to win that, text me and tell me who your everyday hero is and why on 4001. We're going to be picking a winner by the end of today's show.
This is Eye on Education on Dubai Eye 103.8.
Sponsored by Repton School Al Barsha. Exemplary British education for ages 3 to 18, where ambition is nurtured and potential is unlocked.
Turning our attention right now, though, to the story that I think has dominated all of the households involved in this studio today. All of the staff here today, actually. After weeks of distance learning, disrupted routines, a lot of uncertainty, thousands of students across the UAE are now finally back on campus. And for many families, it is a moment of relief, but it's also one filled with questions. What does back to school actually look like right now? How are the children feeling behind the school bags? How are schools balancing safety, well-being and learning as they navigate their way through this transition? If you're a parent, we would love to hear from you this afternoon. How has the return to school felt in your house? Are your kids excited? Are they anxious? Are they somewhere in between? Get in touch. Let me know on 4001. You can also send us your questions. I am joined in studio by Michael Bloy. He is the principal at Repton Dubai, and so he is right at the heart of this transition. And I wonder, Mr. Bloy, first of all, how are you feeling to be back in the school?
Wonderful. Schools without children are just they're horrible places. So it's been great just being back. And I think when it's a bit like that scene in Love Actually when they talk about the airports and you see all of humanity at the school gate. There's people taking pictures. There's kids running into classes. It's just such a wonderful feeling to be back, and quite a privilege actually. So loving it.
What a gorgeous visual comparison. I think everyone thinks of that. That scene makes everyone cry.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's interesting you say about, I've never really thought about the idea of an empty school, but it must be quite an odd thing.
It is. It's like a ghost town. It's so strange. And our poor security team, for example, have literally had no one to speak to for weeks on end. Empty classrooms, you're going through it. It just feels... Yeah, it's like a horror movie in many ways, and I'm sure it was like the same in your households as well. But but having everybody back and so it's just such a privilege to know that you're part of something bigger than that. And as I say, the first thing that hits you is it's not the education, it's the humanity of it all, and that's the lovely part of it.
And I think hearing that schools were reopening, I think there's a lot of mixed feelings. There's a lot of things going through people's heads, kids and adults alike. But that first morning, what's the atmosphere like when everyone has overcome that, put their backpacks on and they've arrived?
Amazing.
You know, what's the feeling?
It was absolutely lovely. I mean, it was like the first day of term, people coming back. I was down in early years, just because it always makes me laugh, but they were like, hi, gave everyone a hug and straight into the toys. So, you know, it was delightful. And to see the older children coming in, I think they'd missed that companionship, even the parents to each other and to the staff. You forget just what centres of the community schools are, and taking that out and just stripping away so many of those relationships, they immediately reform. And I think that connectivity, I think that's what you've been talking about before, it just restarts so quickly. And as I say, it's a privilege to watch that.
It really is that sort of sense of community that I think so many of us have missed. And, you know, I think every household is different. And I know that people who've got, you know, siblings arguing at home might feel differently. You know, they might think that the people who've got one child have got it easier. But as a parent of a single child, you really notice the change to their social fabric.
Yes.
The lessons, you know, especially my son's in secondary school now. So you're following a live timetable, you're doing all your lessons. I don't feel like his education necessarily suffered greatly from being at home. What changes is that contact with his peers, being in a room full of friends, being able to run around at break. You realise how much of school is not just what is being put up on a blackboard, a whiteboard, on a laptop.
Exactly, and I think that's what you were talking about before with the connectivity with the ECAs, and school is more than just learning things. I mean, I think the studies have shown that online learning, your academics don't particularly suffer, but the connectivity does, you know, and that social connection is part of what schools are for. And, you know, that's one of the things we pride ourselves on, is producing very rounded adults that go out into the world. And if you're not having that interaction, that connectivity on a daily basis, that's when you see a lot of those mental health problems starting to occur, because you are just confined to yourself, you're left with your own thoughts, etc. And, you know, thankfully, the majority of our kids are coming back, you know, passionate and excited, but that's some of the things that we'll have to pick up again about for those children who, you know, the perfectionists of this world who have been left alone with their own thoughts. I'm a spoilt single child as well, so I kind of know what you mean when you're locked in your own thoughts and things, and that's things that you want the school to help push out and make sure that you're engaging, you're speaking. And that's what we've been doing a lot in the classroom. We've been deliberately no devices. We're looking at making sure we're doing this, talking to each other, more oracy, more connectivity. So we're not launching straight back into whilst we're doing the academic side of things, that isn't necessarily the priority first and foremost. It's about the connectivity, the routine, the relationships. When that relationship forms, then you've got the mindset to learn. And I don't think the mindset's been lost, but the connectivity in relationships definitely has. And that's the first thing we need to build back.
And in terms of building that back for teachers, aside from the actual logistics, which we'll get into, and the safety measures and all of that stuff, we will come to all of that. But just in that initial face-to-face with the kids, what are your teachers looking for in terms of working out which children are going to be leaping back in with both feet excited and which kids are maybe hiding a bit of anxiety or a bit of uncertainty?
So, I mean, that was part of our training and coming back. I mean, like you talk about, you can have all the spaces and you can mark them out and have the safe areas, but checking for anxiety, checking for the withdrawal, checking for that child who might just be pushing themselves a little too hard. So we've done a bit on that. We've also looked about how we would deal with it. You know, just simple box breathing or the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s, little things like that are really important. So the teachers are ready to look out for those individual children. But at the same time, I think we give our children are actually a lot more resilient than we are. Again, I was watching a year 2 PE lesson just before I left here. Oh my God, those PE teachers have got their hands cut out. They were all over them today. So they were desperate to get in. So for the vast majority of the children, I think we're in a really good place.
It's like a coiled spring, isn't it?
Exactly.
Put them back in a sports hall.
Exactly.
I want to get into a bit more of the realities of it as well next. And you know, for parents whose kids are going back, the kids have gone through that training, the teachers have gone through that training, but I think a lot of parents don't necessarily know what that looks like. So we'll get into that and a bit of what that actually looks like on the ground. And if anyone listening has any questions for Michael Bloy, he is staying with us, so we can put your questions about that reality to him as well. We're just going to take a very quick pause first to take a look at the roads.
Dubai Eye 103.8 traffic.
Sponsored by Yas Island Abu Dhabi. Isn't there a place that keeps kids thrilled? The answer is Yas. Book your Kids Go free package now at yasisland.com.
How's it looking, Milani?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Jen. Traffic is busier this hour. There's one accident on the E311, the Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Road. That is northbound, just before you reach the area near City Center, My Isam. Another accident is at Nad Al Hamar Road. That is traffic towards Dubai International Airport. And traffic from Muhaisna 1 until Sharjah, very slow this hour. There's also one accident there around Muhaisna area. On the E11, it's also slow coming from Al Khan in Sharjah, heading towards Ajman. If you want to add anything else, text us on 4001. Please drive safely.
Yes, please do.
This is Dubai Eye 103.8.
Staying with school transitions next and putting some more questions to Michael Bloy, principal at Repton Dubai.
Your home of news, business, talk and sport in the UAE.
There's more to come on Dubai Eye 103.8.